What if the reason you keep failing has nothing to do with discipline? Not your habits, not your motivation, and not even your work ethics. What if your brain has already decided who you are and every goal you set is being filtered through that identity? Because according to Maxwell Maltz, people rarely outperform the image they hold of themselves. And once I understood this, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't failing because I lacked potential. I was failing because I was acting like the old version of myself. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how to reprogram your identity so success stops feeling impossible and starts feeling inevitable. Imagine this. You decide today's the day everything changes. You buy a new notebook, clean your room, delete social medias, and watch 2 or 3 productivity videos, and maybe even order a book you'll probably read eventually. For the first few days, you feel unstoppable. You're waking up early, you're working out, you're studying, you're finally becoming the person you always wanted to be. Then something strange happens. Nothing dramatic. You don't wake up one morning and decide to quit. Instead, you start making tiny compromises. I'll skip the workout today, or I deserve a break, or I'll start again on Monday. And before you know it, you're already back where you started. Sounds familiar? Most people think this happens because motivation fades. Maxwell had a different explanation. He believed every single person has an internal self-image and a mental blueprint of who they believe they are. And whether the blueprint is true or completely false doesn't matter. Your brain treats it as reality. Imagine your identity like a thermostat in your house. If it's set to 20 degrees Celsius, you can heat the room to 28, but eventually the thermostat pulls everything back down. Your identity does the same thing. If deep down you believe, I'm someone who never finishes, or I'm not a morning person, or I am a lazy person, then every improvement you make feels temporary. Not because you're incapable, but because your mind is trying to return to what feels most familiar. Think about that for a second. The biggest obstacle in your life might not be your circumstances. It might be the story you've been repeating to yourself for years. But that raises an interesting question. If your identity controls your actions, where did that identity come from in the first place? Here's something that completely changed how I looked at people. Nobody is born believing that they are lazy. Nobody is born thinking they're awkward, and nobody is born believing that they will never succeed. Those beliefs are learned. Imagine a child learning how to ride a bike. They fall, people laugh, and someone says, maybe you're just not good at sport. One sentence, probably forgotten by everyone else, but the child remembers it. Years later, they avoid trying new physical activities, not because they can't, because somewhere deep inside, their brain accepted the statement as part of their identity. This happens all the time. A teacher tells you that you're average. A parent constantly compares you. You fail one exam, one business, one relationship, one competition, and slowly your brain starts collecting evidence. Not evidence of what happened, evidence about who you are. Eventually, you stop saying, I failed, and start saying, I am a failure. That's one of the most dangerous sentences a person can believe, because actions can change overnight. Identity usually doesn't. So if your identity was programmed, can it be rewritten? Surprisingly, Maxwell Maltz believed yes. The answer wasn't positive thinking, it was way more practical than that. When people hear the word visualization, they immediately think of manifestations. Close your eyes, imagine a Ferrari, and wait for the universe to give it to you. That's not what Maltz meant. He wasn't telling people to fantasize. He was telling them to rehearse. That's a huge difference. Think about a professional athlete. Before a race, many of them mentally run through every movement. A basketball player visualizes free throws. An Olympian visualizes the entire performance. Why? Because your brain doesn't just learn from experience, it also learns from the repeated mental rehearsal. Maltz called your brain a servo mechanism, like a guided missile. Once it has a target, it begins making constant adjustments toward it. The problem is, most people accidentally give it a wrong target. They constantly imagine failure, embarrassment, rejection. They replay every mistake they have ever done, and the brain treats that repetition as practice. Instead, start rehearsing the behavior you want. Not the mansion, not the money. Imagine yourself staying calm during difficult conversations. Imagine finishing your work without reaching for your phone. Imagine becoming the kind of person who keeps promises. Because your brain isn't memorizing success, it's memorizing patterns. So, visualizations give your brain a new target. But here is where almost everyone gets it wrong. They believe visualization is enough. It isn't. Imagine I told you that I was a professional boxer, but every time you saw me, I avoided training, skipped workouts, complained about being tired. Eventually, you'd say, I don't care what you call yourself, your actions tell a different story. Your brain works exactly the same way. Every action you take is a vote, not for your goals, for your identity. When you keep one promise to yourself, your brain collects evidence. And when you break one promise, it collects evidence too. That's why identity isn't built by affirmations. It's built by proof. Think about someone who says, I am trying to become disciplined. Every morning they hit snooze, skip workouts, delay their work. By the end of the week, their brain isn't saying, we're becoming disciplined. It's saying, we're still the same person. Now, compare that to someone who does one small thing every single day. Going for a 10-minute walk, maybe reading 5 pages or doing 20 push-ups. None of those actions are life-changing on their own. But your brain isn't measuring the size of action. It's measuring the consistency of the evidence. That's why small wins are so powerful. They're not changing your body overnight. They're changing your self-image. And once your self-image begins to shift, your behaviors start feeling natural instead of forced. So, let's go back to the question we first started with. Why do some people seem like success is inevitable? It's not because they were born different. It's not because they have endless motivation. And it's definitely not because they discovered some secret productivity hack. It's because somewhere along the way, they stopped trying to change their lives and started to change the person living it. That's what Maxwell Maltz understood decades ago. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You act in accordance to the image you hold of yourself. So, if you want a different future, don't wake up tomorrow asking, what do I need to achieve today? Ask something much more powerful. What would the person I'm becoming do next? Then do it. Even if it's small, even if nobody notices, because every small action is another vote, another piece of evidence, another line of the story your brain is writing about you. And one day, without realizing exactly when it happened, you stop saying, I'm trying to become that person. You simply look in the mirror and realize you already are. Success doesn't become inevitable because you chase it harder. It becomes inevitable because the person you've become can no longer live any other way. Thank you for watching this video till the end, and much love.